And welcome back to more Little Samson, where last time we left off we took care of the Ice Palace and that Skeleton Knight. So now it's time to go on to this palace. And this is a really odd world map because you just end up going all over the place early on, but then you end up going more of a straight pattern, or a straight line, later on, which is kinda odd. But here we're in the palace, and there are just a lot of these Skeleton Knights, and let's see, there's also just a bunch of things going on, and since I haven't been using Golem all that much, this episode is going to be more centered around him, just because I feel like he is a really useful part of this team, and of course I just wanted to get him some good playing time. We are going to be seeing him, or he is going to be really important against the boss in the next stage, but I think I'd rather take on this boss with Dragon, and you'll see why once we get there. But really, all I'm doing is just switching characters and just trying to make sure I get through everything. And especially because Mouse is always really useful for this part, so I just find it easier with him. And then there's a section with a lot of spikes, and these platforms are pretty difficult to actually get on. But I don't really think it's worth it to use the platforms, I just think it's easier to just go through the spikes with Golem. Well, just because he's better suited for that stuff. Let's see, what I have been enjoying about this LP so far is just getting more into the atmosphere of the game, as opposed to, having to be really technical about what's going on and all that stuff. I mean, I think I have been doing a better job of, getting further away from that style that I kinda used to do, but then again, there is always room for improvement. And of course, the easy way to go about doing this is just utilize your characters. And of course, Golem's great for getting rid of these enemies, and of course you use Mouse for the platforming sections. But we are gonna let Golem handle the rest of this stage, just because, I mean, you have these swords, and it's really not worth it to take too much damage before the boss. Now just trying to find a good lane to go through. Okay, well, everybody else seems in pretty good shape health-wise, so I mean, I can just tank through the rest of this section with Golem. Unfortunately, that's the problem when you're surrounded by enemies, you kinda had to tank through it, and that kinda goes against my style of play. Let's see, here's our another round with a wizard. And fortunately, this guy's not too tough, he just fires off 3 shots and then he just moves. Once you know the pattern as to where he's going, he is actually really easy to take care of. And I don't want to get Dragon hurt because I want him fresh for the next form. And by the way, that bolt of lightning can hurt you if you are unlucky enough to walk into it, or you didn't know what was gonna happen. Let's see, all I'm doing now is I'm just getting away from his stuff with Dragon, and then just trying to land these concentrated shots. And that lightning does do a ton of damage, so that is something we do have to be aware of. But of course, I'm choosing Dragon for this boss fight for speed, and also because of those concentrated shots you can get in and just do a ton of damage to him that way. And that's the end of the palace. And of course, we got our password. So now it's on to the volcano, and the stage, or things start getting a little bit trickier here, but I think the stuff really doesn't get tough until the castle stages. But we're going to be getting into that actually much sooner than we think. So all we gotta do is just make jumps here. And fortunately, the platforming isn't really too difficult. I mean, by now you should be used to like everything that goes on. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to go about doing this. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna get hit here. Unfortunately, that's the problem with this section, is just because there's just a ton of things flying at you, and it's really easy to get knocked off these platforms by these stupid respawning gels. But at least you have plenty of health to work with, so there's that. And just because I don't want to get too well, somebody has to take the bullet, and unfortunately that somebody had to be Golem. So let's see, for this section I want to have Dragon handle it just because these guys can pop out of the lava and they can cause you some problems if you're not prepared for them. I mean, fortunately, they do give you plenty of warning beforehand. I mean, it's not like, I mean, actually, they don't really give you warning, but, I mean, it's something you can anticipate. And fortunately, you do have invincibility frames just in case you do happen to fall into the lava. You know what, I'm gonna use this. And it also turns out that potions are effective in healing your characters in case they get killed. So you can kind of use it like a revive in Pokemon. I mean, that's just one thing that this game does well. And even though you do lose your characters, you do have a chance to get them back upon dying. And especially for this next boss, it can be something that's going to cause problems if we are unlucky enough to have him run into me and kill me instantly. Let's see, I should be close to the end here. And that's why I chose Dragon for this section. And now we're on to another boss, and I am going to use Dragon early on to just jump over the wizard shots. But then after that, I'm going to let Samson try and handle this, and I would rather stay close to this boss. Just because it does have that shot that starts like crisscrossing with itself, and then it ends up getting higher and higher as the further along it gets. So really all I'm doing is just getting my big shot in with Dragon and then jumping over it. I mean, that is one of the things that makes Dragon really useful in this part. And I should be done with that, so let's switch to Samson. And I should mention that in part 1 I badly underestimated how Dragon handles bosses. Unfortunately, her defense really isn't too strong, so you kinda don't want to get her killed by accident. And now we're in Mega Man 2. So all we gotta do is just avoid this guy's shots. Yeah, unfortunately I was in a bad position there. So now I gotta do this again. Fortunately, it's not really too tough to deal with. Let's see, yeah, that's what I meant by the instant kill bosses. I mean, fortunately I had Samson take the bullet there, but then again, that's just kinda irritating to deal with. I mean, the good news is you do get a fresh start with a boss. You know, just in case you did end up getting hurt too much. Alright, let's just do it that way. And this time we should probably play a little bit more defensive here. Just because he does have that shot. And then this is where things get pretty tricky. So what we gotta do when he charges in is just get under him. Yeah, like so. And I actually want Golem to get his shots in. And then we'll switch to Samson. Alright, this is where it gets tricky, and of course this is where the game starts playing hardball. Now what? Well, that sucks. I gotta use my revive potion on Golem now. Alright, take 3 on this sucker. Well, now I know that the characters jump when they end up getting, or when you end up switching to them, so that's just something I gotta take into account. Yeah, unfortunately I was kinda overdue for my first screw-ups in this game, but then again, that's just the way this game goes. I mean, the good news is I have been dealing with this boss easily, though. If I die one more time, I'm probably gonna have to cut that part out, but hopefully that won't be a problem. I just don't get caught out of position. That's really the only issue here. Or what I could do is just let Golem handle this part. And that's a problem when you can't duck. Alright. And that second one goes low. Yeah, see, I'm not falling for that again. Alright, and finally we end up defeating this boss. And that didn't go the best, but he's dead. And that's kind of the way the game gets later on. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and call the video, so join me next time as we get closer and closer to the castle. I'll see you then.